Hey you, it's CovertGoBlue, and thank you very much for helping me hit 10,000 subscribers on this little fast-growing project that is me talking about magic cards. That's really cool, so you're cool. Today's show is one I've always wanted to make. Back in the days of the ArenaCraft podcast, I always thought it would be fun to go back, pull out the sound clips of things we said about cards in our set reviews when a new set or when a rotation or something was about to happen, and see how right or wrong we were about those particular cards. Now, that was a bit of a pain, and nobody really had the time to do it for ArenaCraft because you have to go get the audio soundbite, play the soundbite so that we both hear it, and splice it correctly into the anyway. For a podcast, it was a bit much, but here on this video, I think I can do it. I think I can make this happen. I am a well put together operation. As you can see, I've got my notepad application hanging out right here. I've got my YouTube video hanging out over here, and we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna hit play and see how it goes. We're gonna watch the my top 10 video from Phyrexia All Will Be One, and we're gonna talk about whether or not I got it right. And by watch the video, I mean skip around, like you guys watch my videos. I see you out there. So what I had at number 10, Atraxa Grand Unifier. And in the video, I was like, I'm kind of taking a chance on Atraxa here, because at the time it was like 7 mana for any card in Standard, especially across 4 colors, sounded crazy. But as I did mention in the video, you can reanimate it and things of that nature. I mean, you know what? Fine, let's hear my own audio for a minute. Among the revealed cards in your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your. We know what it does. You are a god gamer, and you put all those in your hand, and you feel great about it. This is an enters the battlefield effect. So if you reanimate this or cheat this into play or copy it somehow, clone it, blink it, you get the effect again. Which that sounds like an intelligent person. The recent North American Championship was a finals mirror of 2 Atraxa Reanimator decks, and both of them qualified for the World Championships of Magic the Gathering using that strategy. So we're going to call this a win. If you could make an argument that it could be an L, it is because maybe it should have been higher. Maybe it should have been number 1 based on how it went in Standard. All right, let's get to the next card. What do we got? Number 9. And then sacrifice this, and it does 10 damage to any target. The Filigree Silex. Has anybody ever done 10 damage with this thing whatsoever? Why on earth did I think that this was a playable card? And it's 10 oil counters from permanents you control. So if you have more oil counters than an oil, a player for sure. And it also works very well against tokens, because you can play it for 2 mana, then sacrifice it with no oil counters and blow up all of your opponent's tokens. True, but their little nobody just has tokens. And maybe some treasures. I don't know. So I think that this will see play in a number of decks. It's, for example, a solution to Reckoner Bankbuster in mono black. A solution to Reckoner Bankbuster in mono black. After what? They've drawn 2.5 cards? Are you crazy? That it didn't have before that you could play. It's more likely to be a sideboard card. It slots in at number 9. Sideboard card, not even. By the way, if you never watched this video before, I was recording at an Airbnb in Florida. If you're wondering who the heck is this person in this white room with this red shirt and all this sun on their face, right? Let's see, what do we have next? We had Glissa, the Sunslayer. Oh wait, scoreboard. New to these kinds of videos, remember? L's, Filigree Silex. And if I spell it wrong, I don't really care in this particular case. Thank you. All right, we're taking the L there. Oh crap! Don't click the tags, guys. It's a trap. There we go. So Glissa, I haven't thought of that. Maybe you have. Post them in the comments. Cool. It also says 3 counters from block. Chum blocking it, because anything that's blocking it is gonna die unless it's indestructible. That's the main thing, right? Glissa's kind of unblockable. This card has seen fringe play. Like, decks in the colors are running it, but green and black just isn't much of a combination. Jund is the most playable. I don't know whether or not to take a W or an L on this. I honestly feel like it's a product of green just being terrible is why this is seeing less play, and that the card itself is good. I want to give myself the win, but I also can't think of a lot of decks like in anywhere in like top 8s that are playing Glissa, but none of those decks are playing green. So is this an L or a W? I think the card is sweet. I think people have enjoyed playing the card. I'm going to give myself the W, because I'm biased. But let me know, is Glissa an L or a W? Let me know in the comments. What else we got here? Skrelv. Let's read Skrelv a little bit, and then it's a 1-drop, so the price is right. It's an artifact, and there's a lot of artifact matters things. Yes, we know. So yeah, Skrelv, I think we can agree this is a runaway hit. We don't have to hear, you know what? We don't have to hear about me patting myself on the back when I was right. We don't have to hear from me in those situations. We should hear from why I thought certain cards were good. But Skrelv here, this card has made soldiers and mono white a bit more of a pain in the butt, but it has really pushed Esper Legends to a new level of just hell on earth. Why did it have to be like a 1-mana legendary? I don't know, man. With the Phyrexian mana thing, I don't know, but I'll take the W, but I think standard takes the L for Skrelv. This card is so obnoxious. And without great sweepers, you know? Like, the way around it is a good sweeper. All right, here we go. Jace, the Perfected Mind. Jace, the Perfected Mind. W or L? I think it's a W. In best of 1, I still think this is a very playable card. We're not seeing much of it in best of 3. I still think the win con ability of it is underrated, and not enough people either haven't explored it or just gave up on it. I don't know. In Kethis, in Historic, this card is absolutely becoming it's pushing a new combo deck up to tier 1. So I think that Jace is a W at this point. You can't say it was a nothing burger. It still very much works for me in best of 1. In best of 3 standard, it's been shut out for the most part, but its impact on Historic is notable too. Next up, Nissa, Ascended Animist. Nissa, why did I like Nissa? For each forest you control and gain if you have all forests, it's +7/+7 to your team. If you have all forests, it's +7/+7 to your team, but then you're running all forests, which means your deck is terrible and is already dead. Trample. It's Nissa Craterhoof. It is definitely a win con. The -1. A win con for a deck that can't win is still not a victory. To destroy an artifact or enchantment, there's plenty of them running around. You can see the -1's kind of good. You want to blow something up, but the +1 can make rather large creatures. I love the double Phyrexian completed cost, because the double Phyrexian completed cost is not really an upside. It means that you get to play something on turn 5 when you wouldn't otherwise, but most of the time you're losing life to build on a bad position, and you don't get to do the ultimate, which is the best thing about the card. It also makes the minus particularly dangerous, as Nissa dies to almost anything, and the plus does not much. Let's just say if you're against mono red and you're paying the 4 to put this down and plus and make like a 4/4, you might just get burned out for that. You don't know where you're going to play this in the curve, 5, 6, or 7, but it can fill any of those spots, and the amount of loyalty it has is very relevant. I think that Nissa will see some play as long as green has enough support, and I'm not positive green has enough support yet. Way to throw something in to make yourself seem kind of right at the end there, but I'm taking the L on Nissa. Poor Nissa. Just not going to do it in standard for quite a while, I think, and putting it higher than some of the other cards was a crime. All right, next card, Kaya, the Intangible Slayer. This is going to be another tough one, because here's the thing. When Kaya resolves, you win games. And there are plenty of like Esper-ish style Planeswalker decks where Kaya is very good. But the counter argument is 7 mana and a certain other card in the format that costs 7 that might be better. If it wasn't an aura, create a token that's a copy of it, except its abilities. And if it's an enchantment, of course the abilities are what matters. I just think that this card is a wonderful kind of win con, and maybe it is like a sideboard option, and maybe it's only a one of in a... Yeah, again, saying like little cover my ass type stuff. But all of those things don't really apply when the other things you can get for 7 mana and also reanimate earlier are Traxa. Very niche set of decks, but I still think it belongs on the list. Given what we see, here's the thing. At the end of the day, this set didn't have as many playables as I think we all wanted. It didn't change the format as much as we all wanted. So if you're making a top 10, putting Kaya on the list, I don't think is an L. I'm going to put Kaya as a win because it is a good enough top 10 caliber card. It just doesn't go in enough decks and it doesn't fit enough spots, but it is a winning card. You can look up the stats on untap.gg. When the card hits the battlefield, the controller wins, but it never was able to like really solidify a home in a deck that could play that type of game. And it got pushed around by Atraxa that should have been much higher than it on the scoreboard. So reluctant W. Luca. Everybody hates Luca. Why the heck did I put Luca as number 3?
Walkers, where X is the greatest power among creatures controlled during and after this, but I think there are some really good ones in this set. There's the Contaminated 3 mana 4/4 with Proliferate. By the way, all the Proliferate stuff with Planeswalkers is going to be an intentionally strong strategy that
but then you have to play a Planeswalker in your aggressive Proliferate deck. We're talking about like Bloated Contaminator and things like this, which I don't think I put on the list. Obviously Bloated Contaminator should have definitely made the list ahead of some of these cards. So that, like, yeah, if I'm looking at a card saying this card is going to make this card good, I should just put the other card up here. That's a lesson right there. I will tell you right now, the thing that I thought with Luca is that we're going to play it on 4 and ramp into Titan of Industry or the new dinosaur, right? No, not really. The biggest problem with Luca is when you play it for the Phyrexian mana. When you pay the Phyrexian mana for it, it's a -1 to create the 3/3 beast token. And it's so easy to kill the beast token. It's not like an artifact to dodge Go for the Throat. It does dodge Cut Down, but it doesn't dodge Lightning Strike or many other things. And it's like you make the 3/3 beast token, your Luca is at 2 loyalty. It felt like Luca always died. Just always died if you played it for the 4 mana instead of 5. And then when you played it for 5 mana, it was pretty good. But it was really hard to raise the loyalty. There were a lot of times where you're plussing to increase the loyalty so that you can use the abilities in the future because you run them down too fast, like using the -4. But you don't have anything to do with the mana. And it was just kind of a nothing burger, which is basically Luca in a nutshell. Number 2, Vraska, Betrayal Sting. What? Oh wait, scoreboard. Big L on Luca. I like Planeswalkers too much. That's my number 1 takeaway here. Vraska. Why did I like Vraska so much?
Types and abilities. And -9 is if target player has means they're dead because they go up to 10 poison.
Yeah, but anybody died from a Vraska ultimate lately? Good point.
Some other way, like the millions of ways in the set, like 41 cards I think have toxic in the
Yeah. This and a -9 and one of 41 common garbage cards, and you win the game. Nice one.
The set or something crazy.
Put it at number 2 on the list.
The 0 can just keep proliferating that counter until they die. So just picture your deck full of answers and removal and things like that, and then you just keep hitting them with the 0, the 0, the 0, they die. That's
yeah. If you could stick one of these on a battlefield and just hit them with the 0 over and over again after sticking a poison counter on them somewhere, you can win a game that way. The problem is the opponent never runs out of stuff. The opponent will always have more things to deal with you. That's the way that Standard works now. Every card has so much value. We've talked about Atraxa many times. Like this card versus Atraxa is embarrassing. I mean, it just draws so many cards when you start paying that amount of mana. This card against Invoke Despair just means that you kind of spent your turn drawing 1 card. The opponent wiped it out and drew 2. Like, it just doesn't line up very well. And kind of the big problem with all of the expensive Planeswalkers in the set is they just get outclassed by all the other cards people play at that mana value, and I definitely overvalued some expensive Planeswalkers. The exception I still think is Kaya. Kaya can still very much win a game from there with, good setup and things like that. It's a very high impact card, and it can copy and make your own Atraxa, as I did in a Historic Brawl video, but like Vraska just isn't going to cut it for me. I think this card, after trying to play with it, is borderline unplayable compared to other options that you have and other cards we've had in Standard. So Vraska's a pretty big L. Now my dog is going crazy. You might be able to hear that because somebody's at the door, but don't worry, we're almost done with this particular top 10 because the last card on my list is Mind Splice Apparatus. I mean, is this a W or an L? Mind Splice Apparatus definitely hatched its own brand of decks that weren't quite the way I felt, but I thought they would be like blue-black or blue-red, and definitely the best version I've encountered and played is blue-white. And that deck is done pretty well, and it is ferocious. When I play against it on ladder, I know that I'm in for a very tough game, and I win a lot of games with that deck. So, however, when you check the stats on sites like untap.gg, the results aren't replicated by the population. Either they keep bad hands or just have worse matchups or whatever. And the deck is a very average best of 1 deck and not even present in best of 3. Yet, I still don't know that this is a complete miss. Having it at number 1 is an L. I am confident of that. Having it at number 1 was probably a very, very, very misguided thing. But I think that the card is still good and has a ton of potential, and I don't want to take the L on it just yet. So, bad to put at number 1, but we will put it down here in the question mark and just kind of cop out in this particular situation, because I think it's right. I think that Mind Splice still has a lot to be done, and I think it's actually a good card that does have an archetype. It does have a deck associated with it, and I know some people have gotten to Mythic with it. Is it for everybody? No. Is it as accessible as like a mono red where you just kind of win without getting lucky and having everything go your way? No. But I mean, this card, when Thalia rotates, will probably be a considerable, it will be a serious option again when the ramp is much more reliable than it feels like it is today. So, a scoreboard. I'm just going to take the filigree off the Silex. You know what I'm talking about. Wins, Atraxa, but it should have been higher. Glissa, Skrelv, Jace, Kaya. I could have had some more wins with Bloated Contaminator. Maybe I could have also had a few more of the toxic creatures in here, or at least the toxic creature archetype represented, maybe by the Stinger, the kind of Lord, or the Duelist. And I think I could have had like 2 more wins, up here on the sheet. In the L's, we got the Silex, the Nissa, the Luca, the Vraska. I think that those are pretty clear L's. And the Mind Splice, I think, is still to be determined. Also, what other cards do you think I missed that could have been wins? Like, what would have gone down as a win, as having a serious standard type impact? I don't feel like maybe Blazing Crescendo could have done it, because that version of mono red I believe is good, and I've seen a lot of people playing it, and I've heard a lot of feedback that it's been getting people to Mythic. So maybe that goes on the list. If I had had Blazing Crescendo, Bloated Contaminator, and something from the Toxic deck, I could have had more wins. Anyway, it hasn't been a very deep set, and I have to say that looking back, I think that going a little bit around 500 at the top 10, we'll take it from a set that wasn't very deep. It's sad to see all these Planeswalkers not doing much. All right, what did you think of this video? How could I make it better? Thank you for watching this video. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you comment on all the L's I should take. Okay, bye. You're cool.